suggestion was to think like a dandelion. He says your work needs to be easily copied so that it can get into the right hands. That means that make your files available in text or in HTML or in PDF and make it so that they can pass things along without formality. You don't need to register, no logins, no email addresses, and with a license that lets people reproduce the work so that they can share it with their friends. He says that copying is a cost center, that when you control your distribution, you actually have to incur a lot of costs in that. The servers to run the registration, all of the different aspects of control. We will see this as many newspapers start to build up paywalls on their websites. This is a very actual problem. The thing that Doctorow says is that when you do that, remember that you and only you are going to incur the cost of making your copies. He says that, yeah, having a single repository for your content is easier. You can count things easier, but remember, dandelions don't keep track of their seeds. They just go everywhere. And he says once you get past the vanity of knowing exactly how many copies have been made, you find the zen of knowing that the copying will take care of itself. And then you'll attain what he calls dandelion-esque contentment. You'll be very happy like a dandelion. He says once your work gets into the right hands, there needs to be an easy way to consummate the relationship. Now, consummate is a very interesting word in English. How many people know this word, consummate? Okay, we've got some, okay, good. The best way that I can use to describe this word consummate is when you're on a date, and the date ends, and you're like, okay, do I get to kiss the girl? And you're like, and you're there, and you're waiting, and does she kiss you back? Well, that's the consummation, when you get the kiss. Okay. This happens actually in media as well, when somebody decides that they like your product enough to either pay money for it, or to register, or to somehow become involved with your brand. And this is what he's really pointing out here, that we need to make it easy to consummate the relationship. Make it easy for the other person to kiss you back. He has an example of this, that a friend has a small press, and he was thinking, well, gee, I make my book available for free download to get some free publicity out of this. And he says, that's a bad idea, because people have short attention spans. The moment of consummation, when you're there and you're waiting, that's very brief. And that's because, a reader finds your content online, and the opportunity for them to actually do something is extremely short, because on the internet, the thought of, I should buy a copy of this book is always followed by, whoa, a YouTube of a man putting a lemon in his nose. This is what we're up against as content creators. You're thinking, you have all this time that everybody wants to come and buy your stuff now. You only have a very short amount of time. So when you're designing your media, you have to make it very easy for people to do something about that. Now, that moment when it's gone, and you may actually lose that user forever. So really take advantage of that. What next? What happens after this? What happens after this moment of consummation? Well, one of the first pieces of advice as a DJ that I can give you is go where the people are. Okay. What this means is frequently people will ask, well, should I be using YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or face.ge or Odklasniki, or what should I be using for my social media? And my answer is always, yes. Okay, this means really find out where your audience is and go there, go where they are. Don't require them to come to you, because most people won't. Now, this really will have important implications for strategy for media organizations, because when you have a project, when you have to do a new media project, you have a limited budget, and you have to decide where that budget will be spent. So, do you spend all of your money on making a very expensive website? Maybe. Do you spend all of your money on building something that runs on one of these platforms? Maybe. You have to find out, though, where the people are, and that's a very important piece of research that needs to be done as you start your new media project. Now, what do we mean when we say media? There's traditional media, right? State television would be an example. Big newspapers, big radio stations, or national radio broadcasters. They are centralized. There's one broadcast tower, right? Up here at Matasmindi, there's a big tower. That's the only place you can get the TV signal, right? It's scheduled. If you miss the broadcast at 7 p.m., you may not be able to find it again. It's expensive to produce, and there's very tight control placed on it. Not anybody can just go to the state broadcaster and put on their show. This changed a little bit with Web 1.0. The business model was a little bit different. It was less scheduled. Things were less restricted. People could make their own web page. If you knew the technology behind it, if you knew some HTML, you could make a web page. Things have changed with Web 2.0 or with social media, because one of the key metrics here now is actually in relationships. How you relate to your fans, your readers, the people who consume what you create. This also, especially in the instance of Twitter, this happens in real time. One of the crazy things to do is just to sit and watch a hashtag on Twitter. Twitter users? Who are the Twitter users in the house? Okay, all right. How many no Twitter users? I don't use Twitter. Okay, okay. I hate Twitter. That's good, that's good. What is interesting about Twitter, a little bit less with Facebook. Facebook is a little bit slower in this regard. Sometimes you can post something to Facebook, especially using one of the third-party things using like the Facebook API, and it may take a long time to actually appear in a newsfeed. This actually is something very interesting about Twitter, that it is real time. So even on the hashtag of SciCampC, or is it Tbilisi Talk, is the hashtag for this conference? Yeah. Things will be happening on, in real time. Now, I don't have my Twitter running, so I hope you guys aren't just saying nasty things about me in the back channel. But regardless, this is happening as we speak. The other thing here is that there are no restrictions on who can participate, right? So anybody could post something to one of these hashtags, and that person may be in this room, they may be in the building, but they may not be. They may be in London, or Yerevan, or wherever. So to summarize, traditional media was very, based on subscribers. That was their business model. It was tightly scheduled, very tight control. Web 1.0 started to loosen this up, and Web 2.0 has this completely turned around. It's based on relationships, and it's also based on real time. When I talk to my clients, one of the things I tell them is, you should think about being cheap, fast, and out of control. And for an editor, anybody who has to talk to a traditional media editor, those three words scare the hell out of them. They think, I need to control this. I need to patent. We have to quality. We have to worry about quality journalism. Yes, of course, but the definition is changing. Now, when we do our social media, when I do social media projects and when I work with different clients, I have a toolbox, just like any implementer. Some of the tools that I can present here, you already know, and hopefully there will be a couple in here that you don't. Obviously, the big ones would be the social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or FaceGE or Oldklasniki or any number of other different platforms to be upon. There are a number of very good sharing tools, and I will talk about sharing tools in a bit. There are also some very good tools for analysis and for analyzing how effective your content is. One of the ones that I'm very fond of is a site called Add This. Add This makes it really easy to share media to different platforms. So what you do is, if you have a website, you can take this little button from Add This, and any link then can be easily shared to any number of different social media platforms. So Add This is quite a good tool.